Welcome back to the MovieBuffs Podcast, the strongest podcast in the world about movies. You are in for a treat because today I am back from outer space and I've just walked in with a sad look upon my face. And now that I've done 2 song references in the opening 15 seconds, we're going to go ahead and get started with the strongest podcast in the world about movies. And here today I have with me the one, the only, the ever-present and effervescent Tyler El Tigre, the Disc Warrior Valencia. What do we got going today, Tyler?
We're going to be kicking it off with our news today, and I'm kind of excited for some of these because I'm not going to lie, I actually had these down for a previous episode that we talked about doing, and I just swapped in some newer ones, some relevant ones, but I kept some of them in from a few months ago. The first one, and I don't know about you, but I liked the older Mortal Kombat movies that came out. I don't know if it was the 90s, late 90s or early 2000s. And
early 90s, buddy.
I don't know why I liked them. If you watch them now, you're probably wondering like why they even made these, but it was so sad when Johnny Cage died in the first freaking scene.
Spoiler alert for Mortal Kombat Annihilation 1996. You fuck.
How he died literally in the first scene. You're like, what the hell? And so rumor is Karl Urban is rumored to play Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2. I'm happy just to hear that they're doing a sequel. I didn't think the first one, the rebooted version, was that great. I think they made a terrible choice with their title character and who they're telling the story through. But who is your favorite character, Ron?
Well, obviously it's Scorpion. But one thing I want to talk about the reboot, it's crazy because it's called Mortal Kombat, but they do everything but a Mortal Kombat. Literally, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, they're like, hey, man, let's settle this in a Mortal Kombat. And then it goes, dun, 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 and it's over. And that should be the first thing you do in a Mortal Kombat movie is Mortal Kombat. I'm
trying to think. I know the guy that they have as the protagonist has some just typical name. I feel like it's like Clay or something
Cole
like
Young.
Colton. Is it Colt?
Cole Young.
Cole, yeah. Like
I remember that I posited that he was going to be a version of what's his name? Sub-Zero's brother. That his name is something that is like almost a homonym with that. But they just said, no, he's just a guy in some orange stuff.
They could have picked anybody else in that movie, and like it probably would have made it gone from like not that enjoyable to decent, in my opinion. But that's just me.
It's just weird when you have 30 years of like characters that people like, and you're like, fuck them, do a new one.
Let's just make a new one. Let's see what people think. Yeah, what if?
Like I heard the Dragon Ball Z movie is not going to be about Goku. It's going to be about Mr. Satan's uncle.
No idea if you just made those characters up, if that's even a real show. But next thing on here, Michael B. Jordan cast in a Tom Clancy reboot adaptation of Rainbow Six with Chad Stahelski just on board with it. I don't know if he's going to be the director or if he's just going to produce. But Amazon already did a military type movie. I don't know if you saw that one. It came out, I feel like, in 2020 during
the one with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that.
That character is the same one that's going to be in the Rainbow Six. That was a prequel to this.
Continuing on the story, and
because it was, I think it was called Tom Clancy's like No Mercy or No Regrets or No Regret, something like that. But yeah, it's the same character.
I feel like it was just a bland movie. Like, okay, well, we've seen this kind of storyline already. I mean,
you were the only person I know who's seen it. Like you said, you've seen it.
There we go.
To be fair to everybody involved and to you, you are the only person I know who doesn't live with me. So either if you don't live with me or are related to me, then I don't know you unless you're Tyler. So
well, I will say the addition, and this is more of just kind of what I've lately been, I feel like going through with action movies, any fight sequence, ever since John Wick 4 came out. And all the stunt coordinators, fight coordinators talking about their style of filming, Chad Stahelski's, and how they set up fight scenes. And then now going back and watching anything that's from the Russo brothers, I honestly just feel like disgusted watching. Like, I don't know if you've watched Citadel.
Dude.
Yeah, I'll say it.
I have not seen Citadel, and I will not see Citadel.
Well, anything, I feel like they're overhyped, to be honest. And I know I'm throwing out some big daggers here, talking smack on the Russo
I don't
brothers.
agree with what Tyler's saying here. Just so you know, as somebody who plans on being in some of those movies, let's just not burn your bridges here, T. Because guess what? You're not invited to the premiere of Citadel 2 that I'm going to be in. It's gonna be me versus Remington Mendez, who looks like Richard Madden.
You could have been any character in that movie and would have made it, or that in that show. I've only watched one episode, but anyways, let's move on to the next one. Tron Ares is in the works with Disney. Surprising. I actually liked the Tron that came out. I don't know what year that came out. I liked it, and the director from that, he's done some things since then that people actually do like. Top Gun Maverick, and
what?
So my question
the guy directed Maverick, I'm in.
He's not attached to this Tron Ares, but
okay.
My question to you, my question to you is: how does Jared Leto keep getting work? Ron, please answer me this.
Well, 30 Seconds to Mars is a cult. It's like the name of their website, so maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know.
I don't know how
Sometimes it feels like Jared Leto when he does stuff. It's like he's in a different movie from everybody else. And also sometimes this is not something I believe, but it feels like maybe he's blackmailing somebody because he keeps showing up and stuff, and they keep giving him stuff, and people just don't seem to really respond. I think maybe it's because he has such a big musical following, so like it'll bleed over. But then he gets over and he does Morbius, which is hilarious that they released it twice. That being said, Sony, I do love you. Live action Spider-Man 2099. You need a big Mexican guy to play Miguel O'Hara. It's kind of
a big Mexican guy. But
have you seen Spider-Man 2099 silhouette in Edge of Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse? The guy's a freaking Diesel house. He's brick shit house. He's got shoulders for days, dude. I'm gonna stop there. I was gonna go on another new bit, but it's not a big deal, dude. It's fine.
My only Jared Leto story is when we went to see Linkin Park, 30 Seconds to Mars, and AFI in concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and Linkin Park was pissed because 30 Seconds to Mars, they didn't come out for like 30, 40 minutes, and they just pushed everyone back.
I can't believe you've seen AFI in concert and I haven't.
Yeah, but
do you even like AFI?
I do like AFI from back in the day.
What's your favorite song?
What is it?
I'm gatekeeping right now. If you say Miss Murder, I'm going to fucking come to your house and upper deck for you.
I'd have to Spotify this to actually get the exact song, but
okay. So this guy's
it's been a while.
He's a phony. He's a finagler, guys. He's a freaking carpetbagger.
Don't make me cut this out of the podcast. Next question.
Everything, baby.
Okay, a question to get to know Ron for the listeners, because if you haven't noticed, just even in the opening sequence, Ron's a different flavor. He's a special taste.
Yeah, raspberry flavored, baby.
Of human.
Or pomegranate.
There you go. See? Now, a John Williams documentary, and this will come back here, is in the works with Spielberg to executive produce. And now,
wait, how is this about me? I'm confused.
Don't worry. I'll work it back.
Okay. Whew.
Now, if you're not a fan of John Williams, I don't know what kind of human being you are. A lot of classics.
I've seen him at the Hollywood Bowl. It was a wonderful evening.
I have seen him as well. Who is your favorite composer? See?
Oof.
To back.
Man, okay, let's see. I really like Ludwig Göransson's work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really... Hans Zimmer. I love the... Those are the two I can think of off the top of my head. I like Ludwig Göransson stuff because it's more. I feel like it's obviously more contemporary because he's under 70. I think he's like about your age, which is way older than me. But yeah, he's a little more contemporary, and I think he has a wide style because he does produce regular music and he does like sitcom, like he did Community and stuff. But like he has this bigger breadth of style, whereas the cinematic guys, they have a certain language that they compose in.
Yeah. I would just flip-flop for myself. I like both of those. I mean, I feel like I have to like Ludwig because he's been working a lot with Christopher Nolan these days. And
oh, is he?
I'm a cultist. And then Hans Zimmer. I mean,
so you're saying if Christopher Nolan had a camp down in Malibu where you could pay $10,000 and sleep in bed with him, you would do it?
If I got to learn how he makes movies, I mean, I'd strongly consider it.
Now, as someone who doesn't make movies, you just use it as an excuse to try to sleep in his bed? Because, I mean, I'm not saying anybody that we've spoken about has a thing where they do that with their fans, but...
Is Christopher Nolan's bed a Tempur-Pedic?
Do your research.
But we'll move on from there and right into, in the same thread of what Ron's been saying here, Venom 3 is reportedly set to start filming in June. Again, how? How is this even possible?
They make a lot of money.
There you go.
Kind of inexplicably.
Yeah.
They do have that Eminem song that where he goes, I got that venom in denim, venom in denim, venom. I thought they really missed the trick by not having Eminem, who is a very good actor. He's only done one movie that he didn't play himself, but very good in that movie. They didn't have him play Cletus Cassidy. I thought it'd be interesting. Him and Tom Hardy actually are about the same age. I think Woody Harrelson's like 64 years old. It was kind of weird to have an actor that much older. They're supposed to play contemporaries. And to have, if you had Cletus turn around and it's Eminem with like, he could have the same buzz cut and it's like red. That'd be so interesting to see Eminem do that.
What's the last thing Eminem was in? Because I feel like he was in something and I was like, he wasn't that bad.
Oh, he was in, he played White Boy Rick in or BMF, one of 50 Cent shows that he produces. He played White Boy Rick as a like famous gangster from the 80s.
I might be thinking
he was in like The Interview. You remember that? His scene in there? And then he plays himself in random stuff. And obviously 8 Mile.
I think 8 Mile, surprisingly, is, I think, it's solid.
He's very good. Like there's it's not like you see some people like, okay, they obviously got this role because they're famous. And
no, Justin Timberlake.
Hey, do the reunion, Justin, you coward.
I just had a cough. I don't know why you're talking
That's why
about
I said,
it.
hey, I had a cough too that said, do the reunion. BSB, NSYNC 2024. You know how many girls between 26 and 41 are going to just blow all their cash on getting front row?
Having seen BSB in concert already, I'm just going to throw that in there. I've already seen them. I'm not a fan of NSYNC. You got to choose sides in life, and I chose a long time ago.
Okay. Well, I'm a flip flopper, baby.
Makes sense.
Moving on Wilson here from Home Improvement because I'm on the fence. The hell were we talking about? Oh yeah, Eminem. You don't see his wheels turning. Like you don't see him acting. He just is the character. But I've actually heard him talk about because it was so long and arduous to make that movie and how much work it took, he wasn't able to do the thing he cares about most, which is music. And I think a lot of people have this epiphany when they get on a set. I've heard a MMA fighter that's a podcast host, Brendan Schaub, was talking about this, that he wanted to get into acting and then went and did the movie Tax Collector with Shia LaBeouf and David Ayer and was like, holy shit, you don't do anything all day. Like part of the hard thing is that like if you're on set for 14 hours, you maybe act for like 2 hours, but the rest of the time is you have to stay in character. And like, you can't really, like, if it's a sad movie, you can't really go around and fuck around and have fun. It's like, I'm going to be back over there and be miserable in like 40 seconds. So he said he had to spend the whole movie kind of in this headspace of a guy who's like struggling and like, had to be away from my daughter, couldn't make music, and just sat around and kind of relived the shitty part of my life.
The journey.
And and he was even saying that because of that, he was like alone and he kind of spiraled out, and that it contributed to his increased drug use. So I think I heard him say that that's part of the reason why he never really went back to do more movies. He was supposed to star in Southpaw, the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, but scheduling conflict with Dr. Dre's next album, he was like, you know what? Again, this is where I'm going to choose my music. That's why he did a bunch of original songs for that. But that was supposed to be his character.
Interesting.
So
that would have been
looking at that, you can kind of see a little bit of Eminem personality leaking into who Gyllenhaal's playing. Oh, I get it now. Like a little bit of the accent, a little bit of the swagger. Haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailers. So.
You've never seen Southpaw? It's on like Netflix?
No, I might watch it today because I'm going to work a little boxing later. So.
Interesting. Okay, well, moving on here. Then to get some breakdown as we continue to warm up for our main set and also our little sketch that we got planned for you.
Captain America, little sketches, baby. I do big boys.
I know. Captain America 4 will feature Rachel Lyon's Diamondback as a villain potential love interest of Sam Wilson. Ronald, do what you do. Give us a breakdown of who this character is.
Well, you know what I'm going to have to do then is go to the internet because I've never heard of that character.
You've never? Dang it.
No.
Totally just backfired right here.
I'm guessing Diamondback's part of the Serpent Society, but that's all I know.
Okay. I think we'll just have to cut that question out there.
No, keep it in. I like that. you know where something's going good, right? Okay,
It was going good.
This is like a parable for life, everybody out there. So you have to keep this in because I'm going to refer back to it.
A parable?
So, things are going good, right? Things are going well. Oh, Tyler has a big drink. You think you have a big drink? I am big drink, you little son of a bitch. Hold on. Oh shit!
I debated if I was gonna show that because I knew you'd say
he's
something.
Got 4 drinks. I dropped something. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So you know how when things are going good in life and all of a sudden you just hit a wall and your momentum dies and your life is ruined just for a day or two? That's what happened with this segment. So I want you to keep that in because everybody can learn that even for seasoned pros, even for the best of the best, the creme de la creme, you and I, mostly me, things go wrong sometimes.
I can't imagine how many fans we just lost right there. But
I can't imagine how many we gained.
Superman casting rumors, of course, continue to come out every week. And the funny thing to me is always James Gunn will reply to some of them. And I forgot the name of the account that he always calls out. I think he might have something out for her. But I just want to know, who is your fanboy request? Who do you hope they cast as Superman?
I can't think of the guy's name, but he's like a young teen actor. He just looks exactly. I was watching what's it called? Nando V Movies. You ever seen his YouTube channel? He does really good, like, pitching, like it's kind of what we do when you and I talk bullshit on our own time. It's like, hypothetically, what about this version of the character for the next thing, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I gotta look up this kid, but he was showing clips of, he did like 10 actors and he's like, I'll show clips to show like, okay, they look like him? Do they have like the farm boy charisma? Can they be like, physically imposing? Do they all this stuff? And they showed this guy's thing, and it was literally like, it looked like a fan casting, like fan trailer for why I should be Superman. It was like some teen movie, and he played like the cool teen counselor to the main girl. But usually that character's kind of douchey. He's just like sweet the whole time. Mm-hmm. And like there's a scene that he showed where she gets hurt and he like carries her, and he's just like holding the girl and like telling her little jokes to make her feel better. You're like, oh man, that is very like what Superman really should be.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've heard people say is like, Superman, he should be big and should be tough. Obviously, like he needs to look like Superman, but demeanor wise, you want Superman to be the guy. It's like, I want to give you a hug. Like, I just feel safe. And Henry Cavill, I think, was really good. Obviously, incredible looking man, but he never got a chance to portray that. And so I don't know if that's something that he could give as Superman, just because I've never seen it. So I really would love to see an actor who, like, you see him and you're just like, oh, that seems like a warm, welcoming, like safe person. Because, Superman's characterization in the Snyder was kind of always like
brooding.
That's all. Hold on. I have a beard now, but he did the jaw muscle flex like Tom Welling did and would go. Mm-hmm. That's all. I want to see a Superman who's just like light and bright and fun. And that way, when you go to those dark moments, it means something. Like when that Clark killed Zod, a big emotional breakdown, and he's sad and tortured. You're like, yeah, he's been sad and tortured the whole movie. So one of the things about like a performance or a script is like, if it goes like this,
you never
like
have your.
This was that moment. He was sad.
Yep.
A little bit sadder when his dad died, a little bit sadder when Zod died. But you never had like, he was the only moment where he looked like Superman was when he learned how to fly.
Yeah.
And I was like, that felt like Superman. Anyway, big tangent. I don't know. Find this kid's name. I'll find it.
Yeah. Well, you can look it up while I go off on this tangent here. I mean, one of the things that we talk about with castings, and I think the last time we did this kind of breakdown was when we talked about Predator and that version of Predator that came out that was a surprise because they cast Adrian Brody as the main character. And I mean, the director was talking about how he wanted a actor first, not saying that Henry Cavill is an actor. I mean, I know there might be some fanboys out there that might take that the wrong way. Me saying that Henry Cavill, I've watched so many things with Henry Cavill. Like I knew him before he was Superman, and his background and him being the most unlucky man in Hollywood. But the big issue that we're running into right now with Henry Cavill is how he's become expensive. And some of the things that we want to see. Of course, I would have loved to see Superman 2. I would have loved to see Superman 2 back in the day.
Yeah.
And we never got that because of, I don't want to go off on too big of a tangent there, but we never got that. And I think that that's where we would have saw more character development. And I mean, really, how much have we seen of Henry Cavill over the Snyderverse that makes you? I know that a lot of people are upset about it, and it's because he's a great guy. Like, you love him as The Witcher, you like him as Superman. I mean, I like him.
He seems like a likable individual just in real life, which is huge because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and so I'm just going to say that whoever we do get as Superman, I feel like we're going to get an actor that can act. And that's not, again, throwing any shade at anybody from DC. I'm just saying that we're going to get an actor that's going to be able to play the role in this movie and future movies and whatever comes forward.
Yeah. That kind of brings me to something that I was thinking of during Guardians, which is Will Poulter's character. When he's flying, I leaned to my wife and I was like, James Gunn was practicing like an interesting way because that's a different version of seeing a character fly that we've seen in the MCU or DC thus far. And I was like, oh, okay. And I know Will Poulter was on the short list to be the Batman. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a big name character in the DC because, James Gunn likes to work with his people he likes. And I don't blame him. Like I said, circling back to being on a movie set, if you have to be at work for 16 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week for 6 straight months in a different country than you live in, you're going to want to do it with people you don't hate. So that's why when you see people work together over again, it just makes sense. Like, if you had to go without your wife, without your cats, at least you want to be there with somebody that doesn't suck ass.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the kid I was talking about. His name's Wolfgang Novogratz. That looks very Superman, right? And he's 6'3".
Oh, wow. He's a stud.
He looks exactly like a drawing of Superman. But when I saw you.
And funny segue here to the last question for the warm up. And I don't know if Ron looked at the outline I made. Most of the times he doesn't because he wants to. He wants a surprise. He wants a surprise element. But the last question here, this last week was the premiere of Guardians, and that's the main topic of our episode here. And he was asked, of course, James Gunn I'm talking about, was asked, will at least or anybody from the Guardians be seen in Superman Legacy? And he said at least one. And I want to know, who's your guess, Ron? Who is your guess or guesses of who? I feel like there's a couple low-hanging fruit ones, but who do you think?
I honestly think that Bautista will show up in Superman at some point.
Wow.
I think it would be interesting to have somebody like him, especially because he's you can tell this is just conjecture here. Obviously, no inside knowledge, but you can tell maybe some of his special sports supplement usage has dwindled because his size has come down a lot in recent years. Even his face shape has changed. He's starting to look a man his age. He's in his 50s. But he's even said, I don't want to play the big bruiser. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm an actor in his 50s. I want to be an actor. And we've seen him be a great actor. But it would be very interesting to see him play one of these characters who isn't known for their physicality or maybe isn't known for that up front. Imagine him, with a little chin strap beard, little round glasses like this, and his head shaved, right? He's got a lab coat on, and he's obsessed with finding out who Bruce Wayne is, or who Batman is. Maybe a little guy named Hugo Strange, right? And then even without him having superpowers, you put him in a lab coat, right? And you line him up next to any actor you have to play to play Batman. And even though he's a regular guy, you're like, oh, I could see this guy being an issue still. Because he's big, he's bulky. I think he's somewhere between 6'3" and 6'6", so he's huge. So something like that, I think, would be a really interesting use of these people instead of being like, oh, he should play Bane. I know he wanted to, but please, guys, give us Bane. Bane is one of the few A-list characters, especially A-list villains, that is a Latino. He's from a fictional country because it's a fictional prison island, but he is written and designed to be a Latino man. So give him to us, okay? I know everybody loves Dave Bautista, but he is Filipino. He is not Latino.
I gotta interject there to say that I always just love Ron is a Latino man, and I always laugh that whenever any word that is Mexican or Latino or whatever you want, how I want to phrase it, he just turns on this secret accent that he pulls out of nowhere, and I'm just like, where did this come from? Are you a different man?
Because you were at my wedding, drunk me is even better at Spanish. I can have full conversations in Spanish when I'm hammered. Sober, I can throw my accent on. But my father-in-law we were talking at my wedding in Spanish, and he's like, "Well, I didn't know you spoke Spanish." And I went, "What?" I didn't know I did.
Fluent.
Yeah, me neither. What the hell did that happen?
I'm gonna save our cameos for later on in the podcast. I would say that we're probably going to see a lot of the smaller roles filled by the ones that you've seen across the Guardians or even in Suicide Squad. But I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we had at least one of the main Guardians in Superman Legacy for exactly what you said, that every director does it. I mean, why did we see Robert De Niro, de-aged in whatever that last Scorsese movie? That
I was
awful.
just talking about this yesterday because I started watching Grudge Match before bed. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And they're de-aged. It looks terrible. But I was like, I got to give credit because Stallone is only 3 years younger than De Niro, but he still moves like a adult person. Robert De Niro has moved like a 100-year-old man since 1994. And so when they de-aged him, he was like, I'm going to beat your ass, young man. Like, dude, that's an old guy in a mask. Like, it looks crazy. There's a reason why sometimes de-aging doesn't work, because older people sometimes don't move. They don't move the same, Like Stallone's, because he stayed so active and athletic, he still does move like an active athletic man. Somebody like De Niro, not so much.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you started off talking about the potential supplements that actors may take. Yeah. And I thought it was funny. Just before this recording, there was one of those I was watching a YouTube video, and it was, you might have seen this celebrity trainer talking about how celebrities get in shape for their roles, and he's become popular because he's right. And I'm just like, come on. Come on. There's no secret meal or program that you're giving them. But anyways,
it's special sports supplements, chicken and broccoli, and lies. Because if anybody out there, I know Tyler and I have done this. If you've ever tried to gain muscle, right? Have you ever gained 40 pounds of muscle in the 3 months leading up to also being shredded on camera? Have you? So 2 things are at play there. One, you lied because you're not going to gain that much muscle, even on an incredible amount of steroids that could kill a rhinoceros. And 2, you're on steroids. That's why you did the muscle gain. Like, that's how your body composition changed so drastically to increase lean mass while losing fat mass. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's it we got for the news. We are going to get to our sketch.
Yeah, we are. Got to find out what it is, and we'll get to it.
A quick little promo break here in this episode. If you're a fan of the podcast, you know that at some point there's a promotion for the Naboso Duo insoles. I just pulled these out of my shoes, gave them a quick rinse to get the sock dust off of them, and I wanted to talk about them because they're great. They're fantastic. They make an impact on your daily life. If you sit at a desk or if you're on your feet, sometimes your feet just feel achy, or maybe they feel like they went to sleep. That's for myself. I felt like after working a full day that my feet did not want to go to the gym, work out, do something active, and it led to some bad habits. But with these, I feel more active. I feel I can do more things, and I've been using them for over a year now. If your feet feel more active, you're going to be more active, and that equates to being more healthy. Check them out. There's a link in the description. See all the products they have, and let's get back to this episode. So we're going to get now to a little sketch here that I've had saved for a few months now. If you are new to the world, oblivious to anything that's been going on with movies, comic book movies, you probably don't know, and I'm saying that you are that oblivious person, that James Gunn is going over to DC and that he's rebooting along with his producer, Peter Safran. They're basically going to be rebooting, and they, in the last month, I think, released their 5-year plan and what they're going to be doing with the movies. And I mean, there's been some backlash with some potential, or with the idea that a lot of favorite characters are going to be recasted. Mm-hmm. But to get to the fun part of this little sketch here, I know that I got a little dark there. We're going to play a little game called Should They Stay or Should They Go? Now, the key will be, because this is just for fun, we're not going to go too in depth, maybe just quick bullet points, but a big stay or go on these actors or actresses. Okay. Now I have a handful of these that we're going to go through. So quick thought and stay or go. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
I mean, not a spoiler because it was in the trailer, but she's in Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
And he's even said that, I think I've heard him say that she will probably be sticking around. So I don't really have to theorize, I guess.
I want you to know for yourself, though, do you want her to stay or go?
I could take her earlier. I mean, we got a few appearances. I think we've seen what she
definitive answer, Ronald. Yes.
I was getting there.
Or no.
I think we've seen what she's doing with the character, and we could do a different person. I honestly think it would probably suit them to go with somebody else just to clean it up. I
agree. I wasn't the biggest fan when she got cast. Yes, she's a beautiful woman. I liked when she was introduced in back when I used to watch the Fast and Furious movies. I don't watch them anymore. And, but I was surprised that she was cast, but I've always just thought she was okay. Mm. And if they did get someone else that had I think some people might be mad for me to say this, but better acting chops, I think we would all be pleased with it. Now, big one here, the big one that caused a lot of drama here, Henry Cavill as Superman.
I think obviously he is going. I think they should bring him back in a later multiverse event. Maybe have him, since he's kind of already played the dark version of Superman the whole time, maybe have him come back as like a Kingdom Come style Superman, like they did with Brandon Routh in the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. Do we want to, like, for some of these throw in, who do you think would be a good replacement? We already did Superman.
No, it's just the act. It's just those ones. Okay.
For Gal Gadot, I do think we maybe find someone a little more muscular. You know, you always see Wonder Woman. She's she's not a leafy thin lady. Yeah, she's muscular. She's strong. So maybe an actress who's, more along those lines would be nice.
Okay. So Henry Cavill, you're saying bring him back in the future, but you're fine if he goes. Okay.
He's gone, so I got to be fine with it, baby. Sometimes, there are things you can control and the things you can't, and wisdom is knowing the difference.
Ben Affleck as Batman.
According to him, his best performance as Batman yet is in The Flash. He said he finally figured out what he needed to do for it. Yeah. And honestly, his Batman could physically beat up all the other Batmen. We've seen them all fight. He's the only one who you've seen fight. You're like, oh, that guy can kick ass. Christian Bale with a lot of foreheads and elbows. And a lot of them, I know you love Christopher Nolan, and he makes great movies, doesn't cover action super well. A lot of those elbows and headbutts do blatantly miss. And then guys are just falling down left and right. Ben Affleck, yeah, he's a murderer, but he murdered way better than the other guys. I'd like to see him come back, and I do think we'll see him again down the line. Same way with Cavill. I think, obviously they're erasing that universe via The Flash, but I think he will pop up somewhere again.
Yeah. Same with, I would be fine if he came, but another casting that I was not pleased with. I've never been the biggest Ben Affleck fan. You said you'd be fine
if he came. He's got a couple kids, so I think he's come a couple times.
Yeah.
Tyler, he's a disgusting man.
I think some of my family listens to this, but we'll keep it rolling.
No, cut that part out.
No, definitely staying in.
Cut that out. Tyler said a slur, and he's trying to cover it. Now you have to cut it.
With Ben Affleck, I mean, I've never been the biggest fan of him, and I know some people love his Batman, but to me, I mean, I'm not even a fan of Pattinson, but I feel like that Batman I'm a fan of.
That Batman's the second best fighter for sure, but he doesn't have that like quasi superhuman abilities that this Batman has.
What I can say that I think we'll both agree with is that George Clooney's Batman is one of the worst ones. I'm always saying that right now because
just bringing it back up.
Because I'm watching it right now.
Okay.
I'm like on like my fifth attempt. It used to be one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, and when you didn't know anything in life, and you just like bright lights and neon colors. But
it has that in space.
It's just so bad. It's just so bad. And even just like him on frame, like when he's just like moving around on the screen, you're just like, what is he doing? Like
he just seems bored.
he just seems like he's just like a stunt up. Like he's just there for his looks, which he is. But we'll keep moving here. Jason Momoa is Aquaman.
He's back obviously for one more movie, and it's almost, I don't know how solidly confirmed it is, but he's playing Lobo in the new DC universe. So I think they're just going to do this movie, and then he's like, nope, he's somebody else now. My question is if he's going to be both, because he's definitely going to be Lobo.
Mm-hmm. So again, definitive answer: should they stay as that character, or should they go?
No, get rid of him.
Okay. Amy Adams as Lois Lane.
Get rid of her. It doesn't make any sense now. If she's a wonderful actor, obviously, but she's in her 40s, and they're going for a Superman who's in his mid to early 20s or playing that. How's that dynamic going to work, and why would it work? She's a wonderful actor. I just never liked her as Lois Lane either. I want a brunette Lois Lane. I don't know why. Bring back Terry Hatcher. She's even older.
This is going to be a good one here, just because it's one that you and I joke about through IG Messenger.
Never joked about anything in my life.
And you've been joking about for years. Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Not only are they staying as the Flash, they're staying as two Flashes.
I think this is because of everything that's been happening with the clout that's been building and the excitement that's been building for the Flash. They put James Gunn, the studio, in a hard position. If this movie isn't, from what we hear, it's going to kick ass. I mean, everybody that I listen to do breakdowns and the way that they talk about it, people that have seen it already, if it is what they say it is, they put them in such a hard position. Literally, I don't know how he can get away with all that stuff, but yet continue in a role when we've seen people lose roles for, I mean, still bad stuff, but
maybe the Flash is just going to always have the mask on. You know how in the CW sometimes they'll be doing the speed blur where you can't see their face?
No, I don't know. I don't watch CW shows.
Okay, well, maybe they'll just have the Flash doing a little speed blur the whole time, and they're like, no, it's not. Don't worry about it. I don't know. Yeah, they're like you said, they're in a pickle. Yeah. Should they stay? No. But should they go? I mean, are they going to? Probably.
Ray Fisher or Cyborg?
Ray Fisher or Cyborg. Poor guy never actually got to play Cyborg.
I know.
I wish they could totally bring him back, because I don't think he got a chance. So even if you're like, oh, new universe, you're like, okay, I don't know if we know from the box office that nobody went to go see Justice League anyway. So most people don't even know that the character's ever been in anything. Other than, there's a version of him that's on the Doom Patrol. I'd say bring him back for the movies. I hope they do. I really do. He's a great actor. Just never got a shot. I
will say that but to follow it up, and this is just a joke for listeners, that I just feel like he's hitched his wagon to the wrong bus there with backing Snyder. No, and again, this is a joke. Backing
he's
Snyder.
He's in Rebel Moon, though, isn't he? I think he's got. Zack Snyder's another person that likes to work with people he likes. So, he's got that multi-picture deal with Netflix. So he's going to get work. But
yeah. But Jeremy Irons as Alfred?
No.
J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon?
I think, did he play Commissioner Gordon in the Batgirl movie? Who was that Commissioner Gordon?
I don't know. I don't know. So go.
No, he could have done something great, but he didn't get a chance. And
yeah, I mean, these last two ones I think is a good point or a good exercise. And some of these actors have not really been in the DC universe, so recasting them, not the biggest cameos. Deal. Yeah, not the biggest deal. Amber Heard as Mara.
I've never really been a fan. I know of forgetting all the outside controversy, which we still don't actually know what happened there. She lost a defamation trial, but it doesn't necessarily clear Johnny Depp of anything, and it doesn't necessarily clear her of anything. That's neither here nor there. Not a huge fan of her acting style, and don't think that there was necessarily anything she brought to that role that couldn't be brought by somebody else. And I think Momoa should go out of Aquaman. So replace them all.
I mean, that was the big thing before we saw Aquaman was, do they have any on-set chemistry? Does it look like they can act together? And it was fine. I know we talked about it in a podcast a long time ago. Yeah, it was fine.
Their chemistry looked like they met for a job. Like they met to do this job. It wasn't like I mean, I know they're not supposed to know each other super well, but they're supposed to like have chemistry. I don't know.
I kind of feel like, not that Jason Momoa is not a stud and a good looking man, but like I kind of feel like I like Jason Momoa like how I like The Rock, that I don't want to see The Rock ever having any relationship on screen. I don't want to see him kissing anybody. Don't touch any female. I just want to see you breaking stuff.
A lot of hover hands.
Doing some of this, just walking around with your shirt off. And that's all I want to see The Rock doing. And I kind of feel the same with Jason Momoa. And that's just me. Willem Dafoe as Volko.
No, Willem Dafoe, they shouldn't have never cast him as that role anyway. He's way too talented and way too like just electric of a performer to have him be Aquaman's like backup mentor. What? Like, have you seen him play anything? Why would you waste him for that?
We literally just had him as Green Goblin, and that was, I feel like, a whole segment that you and I went off on with Willem Dafoe and his performance.
Fantastic. And everything he's ever in, he's just a fantastic performer. To waste him as like a third tier guy like that. Like I bet you John Wick, if they'd known they were going to do 4, they would not have killed his character in the first one. Because I was watching a breakdown. I was like, I forgot he's in that. He would have been amazing to have him kind of like peppered through some of the other movies. It's just,
we watching like one of those Vanity Fair breakdowns with him?
No, it was watching it was Easter eggs from number 4 about the other ones.
Gotcha.
Jesse Eisenberg. He wasn't that. No.
Jesse Eisenberg.
No.
Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. We're moving on.
No. Again, who cares? That's not a character that anybody cares about. Chris Pine, obviously crazy, charismatic, but who gives a shit about who plays Steve Trevor? Don't do a Steve Trevor. We don't need that character.
Yep. Last one, Michael Shannon as Zod.
Obviously, he's coming back. Again, he's phenomenal. I've never seen Michael Shannon in something where we don't go, 1, credible performance. 2, now he's so good, you don't know anything about that guy. You know, there's some actors who it's not it's just a style where they're personality actors. Like Ryan Reynolds, people love him. He plays Ryan Reynolds because people love him. I don't know jack shit about Michael Shannon. He could be freaking the most boring guy in the world, but he's so good. Whoever character he plays, he is. Obviously, he's playing Zod again, so we just keep him coming back as Zod forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But he's amazing. So
yeah, I mean, his role in Bad Boys 2, that white supremacist that he plays. Whoo.
He's in Bad Boys 2?
You didn't know that?
Oh my God! I'm gonna go back and watch it. All I remember is when Martin Lawrence gets shot in the ass. Mike Lowry. Oh.
He's the guy that they stuff in the trunk, the car that they steal from. What is that? Dan Marino. He's like the guy that they stuff in the back of it. They go through the whole chase. Wow. And but anyways,
he's the guy in the boot. What about his role in Knives Out was also phenomenal.
Correct. I agree. Well, that has been this little exercise, and I feel like it was an enlightening segment that we had here. Not so much for comedic effect, but enlightening for anybody that's like upset for anything.
I was enlightened before we started, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, just understanding that these characters, they're not really in that many movies, or you don't really know much about them. So recasting them isn't going to hurt anybody.
All right, so we're getting to that main set, the thing you've all been waiting for, probably the only thing anybody wanted to hear. That's our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, written and directed by none other than James Gunn, as were the previous 2 installments, starring Christopher Pratt as Starford Lord, Bradley Coops as the little rubber raccoon, David Bautista as Dax the Destroyer, Chukwudi Iwuji as the High Evolutionary, Pon Klementieff as Mantis, Karen Gilliansley as what's her character's name? Nebula. Mark Sinclair as the voice of Groot, and Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. Not to forget Zoe Saldana.
I was about to say, I feel like I left somebody off there.
This guy literally left off the woman who is in the 4 highest grossing movies. She's the only person to ever be in 4 $2 billion movies.
Insane.
Isn't that insane? People forget because, like, you know, she's a different color in all 4 of them. She must be. I hope she got a percentage of each of those movies and just lives in, like, she has yachts that are all lined up with little like planks.
A fleet.
Yeah, she has a fleet of yachts that are all like chained together. So she's like, this is my bedroom yacht. That's like my kid's bedroom yacht. That yacht is for the kitchen, and they just float around burning fossil fuel. Not because I want to do that. I'm just saying because she hopefully has that kind of money, because good on her. All right. So Tyler, what can you say about this movie?
Well, let's start with the IMDb storyline. Now, this is very basic, which will kind of lead us into our spoiler questions. This is a spoiler included podcast episode. We do have spoiler free episodes, but this is a spoiler included. So that's your one warning here. Still reeling from the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill rallies his team to defend the universe and one of their own, a mission that could mean the end of the Guardians, if not successful. So this build up to
that's your spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen. Setting off one more time
to this volume 3. The last
game on.
Okay. The last installment from James Gunn. And I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. Is this going to be, is somebody going to die? Or some of these characters coming back? A lot of those theories coming around. And I will say that this installment, I mean, that it really just didn't disappoint. I didn't include a recommendation for us to go through because I'm going to say right off the bat that I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm sure anybody that's a fan of the Marvel movies is going to see it regardless of if they heard it was bad or not. I mean, it's one of those ones that you want to see what happens in the third one. And I think it is also a way for James Gunn to say, you know, I'm back. And like, I'm really kicking butt after the drama that we saw with him, you know, getting fired from Marvel, him going to DC to do Suicide Squad, and then ultimately coming back to direct Volume 3 because...
Don't forget about Peacemaker starring.
Yep, and Peacemaker, because before that, prior, there was talks about how James Gunn was going to be kind of the head of the... what do you want to call it? The universal side or the cosmic side of the Marvel storylines. And now he's going over to DC to be basically their, head of studio. So let's kind of start with I call it the walking out of the theater opinion. Basically, what is your initial thought? I think once you walk, after you see it, your opinion on it, what you felt, what you think about it is kind of different than after you still want to watch breakdowns, listen to podcasts. Ron, what was your walking out of the theater opinion of the movie?
My first knee-jerk reaction was that enjoyable. I got to say, this is probably the first Marvel project since Endgame that I can wholeheartedly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff like Black Panther 2 I thought was good, but a lot of it was like, why would they do that? There's a lot of holes that you could tell. We talked about it, that you could felt like they had parts that they had to change because of the untimely passing of Chadwick. It ended up not feeling like a whole movie. Mm-hmm. You know, Spider-Man No Way Home was fun, but if it's basically only for people who love those movies, like it's not, if you took out the cameos, there is no movie. So I couldn't wholeheartedly recommend it. This one, I was like, I would tell anybody that go watch it. Yes, you have to have some knowledge of the other ones, but they do kind of explain it because they even say like, oh, without being overly exposition heavy, they do kind of reiterate what's going on, what the stakes are. And there's enough flashbacks. And then because of a point we're going to hit on later, the main thrust of the story is self-contained here, which is Rocket's story. Like you don't really need to know a lot. You just need to know they're a team. This is one of their characters and this is what's happening to them. The other big knee-jerk reaction I thought of was they really didn't use Adam Warlock at all. That was weird. But that's it. That's all I got to say before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was all the things that Ron already mentioned. And wow, like that was how you use so many different characters, so many different arcs, how you tie up so many storylines from 3 different movies in one movie without it getting at
really five movies.
Yeah, I mean, with Endgame.
The Gamora stuff is Infinity
War. And with all that stuff, having all culminate in one movie and nothing got so overwhelmed. I mean, I feel like, and I told this to my wife as we were driving home, was how with that many characters, that many storylines, that many things to wrap up, the one piece that's usually covered up, and I feel like we saw this in the James Bond movie, is the villain. The main villain is usually the one that gets covered up or that you don't feel what their intentions are. Why are they doing what they do? And even feel any type of fear of what their wrath could be, because there's so many other things that you have to do. And I feel like this one, volume 3, it handled all of those so well.
Yeah. Oh, actually, sorry, 6 movies they're tying up because of the Guardian special, because they include that to directly go off that.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that James Gunn said this about Chuck Woody, was that when he cast him to be in Peacemaker, he was like, this is the best actor I've ever worked with.
Wow.
He's an amazing person. And so he wrote that High Evolutionary thing just for him. He's like, I would not do that movie if they wouldn't let me cast him. And you feel that. And I think I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, his character Myrn dies in Peacemaker, spoiler alert. But I would not be surprised if he at least comes back. He's definitely going to come back at least as a voice actor for some other character in the DCU. But I wouldn't be shocked if they're just like, no, fuck it. This guy just happens to look like Myrn. But I could see him being Lex Luthor. Could imagine that gravitas, and he feels smart. Like, you know, the High Evolutionary is supposed to be the smartest person in the universe. Some corners of the galaxy call him God. You felt like this is a man who is purely in control and is very much the most intelligent thing anywhere. Yeah. So you apply it to like a Lex Luthor type character, like, oh my God, that would be riveting. Have him be Lex Luthor, who owns the Daily Planet, and Clark figures out that, oh man, this guy's actually kind of evil, but he's also our boss. And then it's just, I don't know. I could see him. I definitely need to see more of his, man.
Yeah, I could see, I mean, the way that I'm sure we'll talk about him throughout this episode, that he could be an actor that both studios are going to be fighting over.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's going to fight over this guy. He was phenomenal. We're
going to talk about, him and Kang later on in this episode. But I mean, he's somebody that you can tell that he can act, that you could tell that everything he says is going to happen. Even in this movie, the pace in which he just kills a whole planet.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, we threw the spoiler already.
Yeah, I already said spoiler alert, so I don't feel bad for saying it. Yeah, but the pace at which he does it. No, you're just like, what?
No remorse, no like, I'm going to do this. He's like, let's go. Boom, done.
Yeah.
And then he even mentions that he's done it over and over and over again. So he just has no problem.
Yep.
I really am happy they did it on Counter Earth too. So it's not that thing of like, obviously they're going to save the planet. Like, no, they did fail. The Guardians that was billions of people died.
Good point. That's a good point. I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, even without realizing it, like it adds to the stakes. Because if they do it on Earth, like, that's what I didn't love about Volume 2 is Ego's thing on Earth. Obviously, they're going to be fine. And then where are all the other heroes? Like, you don't think like Iron Man's going to see this giant tentacle, but let's send a couple Hulkbusters over there and fix that. So I thought that kind of threw that whole movie off for me. So for this one to be on a different planet where they can blow up the whole planet, and yes, there's stakes. I mean, the stakes are lower because we don't live on Counter Earth, but you still know it's a planet. We see all the people there and they just fucking die. And that's so in your head, with like emotionally, you realize, like, even without being cognizant of, you're like, oh, this guy really is that dangerous. He doesn't give a fuck. He wants all of them dead. He's only bargaining because he needs Rocket's brain. Like, if he could if they could go decapitate him and the brain wouldn't die from lack of oxygen, they would just do that because it's the easy version, you know?
I feel like what you're talking about now with it being on Counter Earth, that is literally the argument or the issue that's a lot of people have with the Marvel movies is, why didn't this character show up? Why didn't XYZ happen to that? Where is Thor? Why couldn't Thor just come save them?
Just do everything.
That is literally the argument that everybody always comes up with, because it's true. And this being on another wholly different planet, and it being destroyed, I mean, it really solves so many different things right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good point there.
And that's an issue, like you said, that all of these universes need to consider. Because it's not enough to just say, I mean, I think in Iron Man 3, they ask, well, where's the rest of the Avengers? He's like, I don't want to call them.
Yeah. Oh, is that it?
But they kidnapped the fucking president. Like, you just don't want the help. Like, no, that makes your character look stupid and it throws off the whole flow. Like, the believability goes out of the window. You're like, you have a friend who can pick up a building. Just call him.
Yeah.
Have him kill all the minions for you. You can take the glory and beat up the manor. Like, it's so to have that separation. And I think James Gunn does a really good job of that, because like you see the Starhawk and the rest of the Ravagers It's like, oh, where would they be at? Why didn't they call him help? They did call him for help. They say, we don't want to cross this guy. We will be here to help you infiltrate, but we will not physically go there because he is a fucking dangerous person.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's a legitimate answer to have the other characters be like, no,
nope. Yeah.
We're not handling it because we don't want his wrath. And that's fair. But to just go, I don't know, they just weren't there or whatever.
Yeah. All good points. Another thing to kind of build off of this and talking about now segueing to, the story of this, the intentions of the movie with the Guardians and why they go on this mission. But, and we've heard this for probably the last 4 months is how James Gunn has said that Rocket has been the secret protagonist of all 3 of the movies. But in volume 3, it's really his backstory that pushes the story, the whole story, because you get the flashbacks of how he was created, why he is how he is, and also, his intelligence level. And then also at the same time, why the High Evolutionary wanted his brain. You get all those pieced into it. What did you think about his character arc and how it was intertwined, especially with, there's a large segment of the movie that Rocket per se isn't in it, but really, he is in it, but he's not. What'd you think?
Yeah. Hearing the secret protagonist thing, I was just laughing to myself now going back, like, yeah, he really was the heart of a lot of these stories. Even when, even in number 1, right, his like best friend dies and then he becomes the father to baby Groot. And then he's the only one that sticks around through Infinity War and Endgame and has to deal with the loss of his friends. And like, it really was that. And it's beautiful. But yeah, I thought it did a wonderful job. It did the Toy Story thing where it made the ugly toys be something you care about. I looked left and right in theater and everyone's crying at this fucking rabbit with a metal trap on its face and spider legs, horrifying looking because it died. Like, you're crying. And then there's no humans in this story, but it's written so well that you're like, you really feel for this horrible little group of creatures.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh yeah. And then that tying together of that whole arc, like it did a really good job. And he really was secretly setting up this thing the whole time. Yeah. And even with like, a lot of times you would have the thing that's special about Rocket, you wouldn't really have known it until this movie. They do that a lot. Where like, oh, this movie's about the butler, but really he was a spy. Like, you didn't set that up. But with Rocket, every time you've ever seen him, he'll grab like 2 screws and a freaking pencil and then boom, has a machine gun. You're like, you kind of take it for granted because it's Marvel and everything just appears because of nanotech, which is way overused. But no, but you like, it's kind of like how when you see Bloodsport put his guns together, like it's nanotech, but he has to physically get and build it. And you're like, oh, that's impressive. Rocket's always been doing that. And he's literally engineering it on the fly. Yeah. So like when they bring up like, yeah, he's capable of, invention in a way that none of the other creatures are like, oh yeah, we've seen that 4 or 5 movies.
Yeah. It's part of his genius.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, it was there the whole time. You took it for granted because they just presented it to you. But then when they're like, no, we want him because of his brain, like, oh, this really is like an incredible creature, like all these things we've seen him do.
Yeah. One of the things I heard this weekend and listening and preparing for this episode was about how James Gunn said it was Rocket that made him want to do the movie. He was kind of on the fence when the pitch came to him, but driving home, thinking about it and thinking, oh, wait, there's this unknown character. It's a raccoon, and I can tell a story through him and give him a full character arc. That this is this is basically the vessel I can use for this trilogy. That's what sparked it all. And even I feel like there was this. I think they said that he like drew this basically like character art on like a napkin of Groot. Of Rocket. And it's like the whole equation. And then we actually saw that later on in some of the posters with like a whole like equation that Rocket had written out. And, that all plays into what Ron just said there. And that's part of the beauty of, I think, James Gunn's writing is that exactly what you said. We took it for granted, but it all was subtly there. Yeah. And then you noticed it when you have those moments in the theater, even like this is like, thinking about it later on. I mean, you're at home, you're relaxing, you're thinking about the movie. You're like, wait a minute. And then, we just had one of those moments later on as you were watching the first one.
Lila says it to him at the end of the movie. She's like, it was your story all along, Rocket. You're like, Holy shit. It
It
was.
was. Yeah. Well, I think we're both in agreement there with the story arc there. Ron, what was your favorite scene or sequence in the movie? It could be emotional or it could be a fight scene.
Yeah, my favorite was the scene, the escape scene that culminates in him removing the High Evolutionary's face.
Oh.
I thought that really, like, you knew it was coming because
Yeah.
they're not with, we don't ever see them ever again. So you know what's coming. So like you have that dread of that, like, you're about to have your heart broken. And then when it happens, and then my second favorite sequence is when they reveal what he did to the High Evolutionary's face.
Okay.
I was always wondering why he had that RoboCop face on. That was a different skin tone than Chiquiti's actual skin tone. Like, why does he look so different?
Okay, much different than. Go ahead.
I did have umbrage with, so his ship's color scheme, that red and silver, very angular, that is the High Evolutionary's comic book color scheme. And it's weird they turned him purple. But I have a theory for maybe why they did that coming up when we get to our K point.
Okay. My favorite scene or sequence was definitely the last fight scene that starts with the No Sleep Till Brooklyn. And
that was cool.
what we talk about with camera movement, camera angles, all I could think was how next level that had to be pre-planned, and the creative elements of some of those are not even real people. They're literally, that's literally imaginary as you're filming it, and the ability to go next level enough to film it, sequence it, put it all together and have it flow like that. I just felt like it was so next level. That's all I could think about, that how next level that it took for that, the skill set and the people involved with it, how many people had to be a part of that whole process of it. It was amazing. And I thought it was just so beautifully done. You're back and forth. You're following each character. You're following an arm, a Groot arm across. And all of a sudden, Mantis is swinging from it. And then all of a sudden you're following Nebula. There's so many pieces of it that I feel like it's one of those scenes that you could watch probably 10 times and you'll see something new each time with it. And, the music, it was just another example of how James Gunn uses music to, tell the story as well. So that was definitely one of my favorite scenes that I was just in awe of. And I really like yours too, the ones that you mentioned.
And I feel like I will have to go back and watch it because there was so much going on. I'm like, but not in like, this is just noise and bullshit kind of way. It's like, I kind of want to see, like, in that back corner, what were they doing before he came around and Nebula cut that guy in half or whatever? Like, I want to watch it again so I could look at a different corner and see some more cool stuff. So I really do like that.
Agreed. Who was your favorite character in Volume 3?
Interesting. I don't know. I kind of felt like I do wish they would have gave Drax a little bit more depth, but I like where it paid off. Mm-hmm. But I think Nebula, honestly, I think she had a great arc too, just from, again, James Gunn really sold this arc through where she started as a straight up villain, right? We've seen her as that multiple versions of her in two different timelines, but she's a villain. She reluctantly helped them because of, rebelling against Thanos or whatever. And then she ends up as being kind of the heart of the team and becomes this like mother figure to the whole of nowhere. And it was really fun. I like to see her do that.
Mine's actually the same, surprisingly. Not planned, and I don't know if I was like Inception before I went into the movie, but she had the actress that plays Nebula had retweeted something that I saw. Basically, I think it was a critic complimenting her story arc and her portrayal of the character over 3 movies and how much it's evolved. And maybe because I saw that before, I just noticed it more.
You're looking for it. Yeah,
but you're spot on too. Like, the connection that was built, I feel like wasn't as apparent, but if you think about it, her intentions to save Rocket, you think about it, it was her and Rocket that were alone during the snap for so long. Yeah. They built their connection, they built that relationship together. So,
and even when they see what happened to Rocket, they already knew they were connected because of all the things that had been done to them. But when she saw it like firsthand, and she says, "This is worse than what Thanos did to me," like, I can't imagine that poor thing. So she feels so connected to him.
Yeah. It's one of those things where maybe you didn't fully realize that on and seeing Volume 3, but they have history together. They spent so much time together. And so her having that kind of role in the movie, the mother figure in it, and ultimately becoming one of the administrators of Nowhere. It's such a nice character evolution throughout all three of them, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to the one that I know that we're both going to agree on again. And I know that you talked about this already, but Adam Warlock, he was teased in volume 2, and for how many movies we people and fans have been like, oh, we didn't get Adam Warlock in this, but the James Gunn character, I feel like that he introduced it. So he's going to be the one that ultimately fully shows him. So we finally get to see him. There was the casting of Will Poulter, and it came as kind of a shock. But what were your thoughts on it? I feel like we're going to go probably down the same direction on this.
This character feels like something that maybe Marvel, because they tease it, like you have to use it.
Yep.
He's the one thing in the movie that honestly feels like it was kind of obligatory.
Yep.
Like I said, I wish they would give Drax more depth, but like it feels like purposeful because maybe they'll come back to that story, or they just wanted to say like, no, he's really just this guy he ends up being. But with Warlock, it just felt like we had to use him. So here he is.
Yeah.
And I think James was like, okay, well, like you said, if I set it up, I'm going to use it. And at least there's a couple beats for him to be important. I did think it was weird that they're so welcoming to him. He's the reason they had to do all of this stuff. Yeah. He showed up and terminally injured Rocket.
Yeah.
I get it. They want to forgive him, but it's like feels a little ham-fisted because you're like, I don't know. And I know Marvel needed him because like we need this character moving forward. I did think it was great practice as far as like Superman-like abilities. So there was some interesting stuff there. I did think Will Poulter looked great. He was very funny. He like played it earnest, like a child, like he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I liked his initial armor, but when he lost the armor and they put him in the Guardian suit, I told my wife this, the prosthetic work and the paint work is amazing, right? But being that gold, when he's wearing the gold and like red accented armor, it looks really good. It all blends. But when you put him in the leather suit, it looks like a guy painted gold. and then the leather suit was a little bit loose and like his armor had like the bulkiness, so he looked like a big imposing guy. He just looked like a guy painted gold in a leather jacket, and I thought that was a little. Obviously, you'll never see him in that costume again, but I thought that was weird.
Yeah, I thought the same, that it was just kind of if he wasn't in it, probably wouldn't have noticed. And I feel like they had to do it, but at the same time, I didn't have any issue with the portrayal of it. I don't. I think that might be some people that are big fans of Adam Warlock, that be something that they're stuck on is his portrayal.
You're lying. No one's like Adam Warlock, my favorite character.
They're probably just looking for something to be mad about James Gunn about, and it's one of those things that like you think about it. Okay, he's not a fully developed individual. He probably is naive about things, and he's learning how to act as an individual. Yeah, he's gonna take some time. So
yeah,
it was.
And they even mentioned that they woke him up too early and he wasn't done.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought was samesies on all that kind of stuff. One of the other ones that I thought was actually I liked, and talking about Quill and Gamora's love story arc continue, and I'll play it on screen. This has been something actually new for me, and there's another podcast episode I'm working on that's going to be a rankings, and there's a show that I'm going to talk about that I actually appreciated, that something that is kind of done in this is not everything has to be a love story. Like every love story doesn't need to be fixed. Every main character doesn't need to have the love story arc. And I like that they didn't come back together. I think that Gamora going back with the Ravagers and just the smiles, and they're so happy. That's her family now. Yes, you're sad for Peter, but now he gets his own story arc on Earth, which I'm sure, or it definitely didn't connect with what's going to be happening in the future. Yeah. But I'm happy that it didn't connect. What'd you think?
I agreed. I thought it would have been I was hoping they wouldn't do it because obviously in the trailer they kind of tease it. I'm so glad they didn't, because not everything needs to be happily ever after. And it didn't make sense. Like the other Gamora lived with him and was a team for 6-7 years before she died. So to reset all that and her to be like, okay, well, I'll just do it because you said so. Doesn't make sense for the character, doesn't make sense for the story. And I was also very glad that they didn't have him, when he like jokingly turns to Nebula, like, never noticed how black your eyes are. I was like, please don't do that. Now don't be like, oh, I can't get with my girlfriend because she doesn't remember me. Let me date her sister. Like, no, I agree. Very satisfying that they didn't do that.
Yeah, agreed. Now, this is kind of and I feel like we've done this practice before where we talk about future Guardians teams. And I feel like there wasn't set up. There was just potential teases, I thought, in this. 2 teases. Now, there's one with Rocket and his team at the end that, it's one of the post-credit scenes or mid-credit scenes, if you want to call it. And you can theorize on the characters that were used in it. And if that's going to be the Guardians team move forward, if they will make a movie going forward, or will Stakar, Ogard, Sylvester come into the fold with it. And they showed them again, and that's where Nebula is. So what do you think, Ron? Do you think that there's going to be one of those teams moving forward that they'll make a movie with? Or do you think that they're doing a mixture?
I thought it was very convenient that the only actors from the original Guardians that stuck around are the ones that don't have to show up in person.
Okay.
And I love that James Gunn was like, and guess who's on the team? My fucking brother. Twice. So you're going to have to keep this guy around.
Okay.
Because anybody who doesn't know, Kraglin is played by James Gunn's brother, Sean, who also does the mocap for Rocket. So he's in that team twice. Yeah. And that young girl, I forget her name, but she's the hero Quasar. Just if anybody's wondering, she kind of shares the Captain Marvel power. So that might connect down the line. I think the way to do it, especially Stallone is 76 years old, to have his team come in contact, like Guardians 4, it's going to be a new director. We already know that. Have his team come into contact with these Guardians because Starhawk, Sylvester Stallone's character, has died. And Starhawk 2, maybe his son, is out for revenge or something. And the Guardians are like, hey, man, you're doing this wrong. And that could be another family building story to start all over again. And I thought that maybe just logistically, the Gamora Star-Lord thing was perfect too, because both of them have said that they are open to maybe coming back, but probably not. And if you had them end up happily ever after, and you convinced, say, Zoe Saldana to come back, are you just going to be like, oh yeah, Star-Lord died off screen? Or he just, not to make light of the actual death of Paul Walker, but like his character in Fast and Furious, they literally like, oh, he's babysitting the kids. Like, it's the tragedy. But as far as narratively speaking, it's just a weird thing to have him go 4 movies of, he's just over there. Don't look, but he's over there babysitting the kids. And then inverted for, you come to an earthbound thing. Is Star-Lord going to live at his grandpa's house with this green murderer lady? Like, no. So I thought it was nice to break them up. And then you could have Gamora just have left this team of the Ravagers to go look for Quill. There's like a real narrative reason for her to be gone. And then when you cut back to Quill, they could be like saying goodbye one more time or something. I don't know. But I think that would be the way to do it, is get a big name to play Starhawk 2, have him in search of his father or something, or, and I think that'd be a way to combine those teams, because there are a lot of cool OG characters, like Michael Rosenbaum's character, the little Martin X. There's a little floating head and the snake guy. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. So that's what I would hope to see.
Yeah. I think the director that potentially takes it over, will need to be as creative as James Gunn, or at least have a really solid direction with it, because of there's a standard of, I feel like, those types of Marvel movies with that many characters, and it takes a lot. And we've seen ones that fall apart with too many characters and character arcs getting basically just put to the side. So I think the director will be a big piece of it, but we'll see in the next 5-10 years what they do with that. Now, we didn't review Ant-Man, and I think that, it was one that I know I was disappointed with Ant-Man, but going into it and even walking out of it, a lot of people were high on Jonathan Majors, and that might change moving forward. But we could talk about that. But also, I think the first question I want to ask you is, what did you think in terms of High Evolutionary versus Kang and the portrayals of them? They were both solid performances. I thought Kang was the best thing of Ant-Man, Quantumania. And I thought that High Evolutionary, I don't think he was the big thing I walked by. I just thought it was a portrayal that was memorable.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think the acting wise, you're not going to be able to say that Jonathan Majors didn't do a great job. Obviously, there's a lot of very unfortunate things that he maybe has done in his personal life that are going to change the landscape of his career. And that if he did those things, rightfully so. But yeah, his portrayal I thought was very good. The character itself was very nerfed. Like, it didn't make any sense. His powers would change. Sometimes he didn't have powers. Sometimes it was all over the place. I did not like the character itself, how it was used, but the portrayal was wonderful. High Evolutionary, I think, was top to bottom. Like, they gave him his powers. They showed him use them. There was never a time where he just conveniently stopped using them. This is a bit of a tangent here, but I was very happy. I love it when people pay attention. So at the beginning, what are you doing on the ceiling, Rocket? I just want to see if my gravity boots work. Then you see him use it again in the escape. Then when he's fighting the High Evolutionary, who has even said, with the suit, gravity itself bends at my will. So we said that he's not using like a force field. He's changing the gravity when he applies the suit to you. Then Rocket enacts the gravity boots you've seen him use twice. Chekhov's gun, they plant it, they remind you, they pay it off. And it's like, oh, that was beautiful. It wasn't a guy who's so powerful that he can just blow you up through a wall and build all this stuff. But then when a couple ants show up, his suit doesn't work anymore and he just gets beaten. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, Narratively speaking, it's unsatisfying. And nothing on anybody who made it. It just, you know it when you feel it, when you see it, and it just didn't work. So I did think High Evolutionary was a winner in that category for me. Now, this goes back to what they did with High Evolutionary. So I was looking up pictures, and the comic version wears a red and silver helmet. When he takes it off, his face actually is quite disfigured. So it makes sense. They maybe changed it to like, okay, instead of wearing the helmet, we want Chuck Wheaty's face. That makes sense. But I thought it was interesting. They have two characters who are historically random colors. Like, Kang is blue, High Evolutionary is red, and they cast them as two African-American actors and put them in purple suits. I thought that was interesting. Now I'm thinking maybe Marvel had some sort of inclination that something might happen with Jonathan Majors. Maybe there was rumblings. So they put them both in the same color suit. They cast both African-American actors. I know that James Gunn purposely cast Chuck Wheaty, but I'm just thinking this as a conspiracy theorist tin hat here. Maybe he's wearing that purple because this High Evolutionary is a Kang variant. So when you have to, this is what I would do, because if you have to replace a guy who is a powerhouse of an actor, who was playing 10,000 versions of himself and has to be in every single movie, you're going to want to replace him with somebody who can match that performance. And I think Chuck Wheaty is the kind of person that, like we said, you can throw him in, he will fucking crush it. So they kind of left themselves in a lane here, because they didn't give any particular origin for the High Evolutionary. They didn't say his name is Gabe and he's definitely not a Kang variant. He said he's been doing this for millennia. Why is he so old? What kind of alien is he? Maybe he is another Kang variant who found his way into this universe and was like, okay, this is perfect for me. I don't need to take over everything.
Yeah.
Just saying, we know Kang loves purple. Every version of Kang wears purple. So that's a good avenue to replace him. And
yeah,
I don't know.
He did say even that he had been to Earth. He didn't say he was born on Earth. They didn't really give any of that type of background that you're talking about. And I mean, I'd seen people tin hat that as well. That same type of breakdown as well. Yeah. I think it gives you the option. And I think that fans, I feel like they wouldn't be upset at all. They would actually be super stoked.
Especially if you're seeing this performance, like, yeah, I would want to see him in more stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. If that out happens, it's one of the best, or the luckiest outs you'll ever see with this level of, we'll say, setup and universe. You don't get that come around and be able to just subtly be able to do that and be like, okay, yeah, this character is this character, and fans be like, yep, I see that, yeah. Okay,
yeah, and there's no reason why it couldn't be. Like, okay, it just is. He just looks different, but it's similar powers even to their suits. Like, but one of them has an explanation and pays off.
Yeah. Well, I agreed with a lot of that stuff. Now, we saved this question for the end here because we were talking about potentials of who might show up in Superman Legacy. Now, we saw some James Gunn cameos. we'll call them. And I want to know, who is your favorite? This is the kind of wrap up this main set from Guardians Volume 3. Who was your favorite cameo?
I really like Nathan Fillion's character. I thought it was fun. Usually he gets cameos and this kind of stuff, and it's like a one-liner, or he's the detachable kid and then just dies. So it was fun to see him do something else. I like Daniela Melchior showing up, the Ratcatcher 2. She was Ura.
Yeah.
It's funny to see her like in the red makeup. And like, you've never seen what this woman actually literally looks like, because she's all, I was going to say tirao, which is like a slang for looking bad. She's all like dusty looking and the Ratcatcher 2. Who else was good? I thought it was funny that, Michael Rosenbaum was back as Martinex, famously Lex Luthor from Smallville, and he's really good friends with James Gunn. So I kept waiting for that character to have something to do. I was like, oh man, he's in a bunch of scenes, so he doesn't say anything or do anything. And the very last time he takes Gamora onto the ship, he goes, "You ready to go, kid?" to give him a line, because he gets that line. He gets paid more to be in the movie. And I thought that was my favorite cameo, because I'm like, that's a freaking homie right there. He was like, "Hey, bro, you're going to be in this. There's nothing for you to do, but you're going to have a line, so your rate goes up."
There you go. That's a good one. I mean, mine, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on James Gunn's actual wife in real life. I'm trying to skim.
Jennifer Holland.
There we go. I like that she was in it, because I know that it probably pissed off a lot of fans. Because she is very good though too. She's always very good. She's a great actress.
She's amazing in Peacemaker.
Yeah, I mean, she's a great actress, and I just think it's funny that all of a sudden it's an issue for some fans that directors use people that they like, when every director, I mean, I'm a Nolanite.
I am pissed off though that we didn't get a. I left the space so you can drop in there. John Cena cameo. I left the space so you can put it in. It's John Cena.
That would have been great. But I mean, she's a good actress, and to see her in it, I just know it made so many people mad, and that's probably why it's my favorite. That wraps up our main set for Volume 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy. We'd love to hear what you think about it. Leave us a comment on one of our social media platforms. But let's get this thing wrapped up. Getting to now our wrap up, and already a solid episode, I feel like, in terms of a lot of great content here for our listeners and potentially new subscribers to get an idea of what we're putting out with our MovieBuffs podcast. And to wrap us up, to give us a little segue to our cool down, we're going to do a little exercise that I call ranking the following trilogies. Now, the 5 trilogies.
How'd you come up with that name?
You made it myself, huh? That that we're going to be ranking. They're all Marvel based, but it's all our own personal opinion here. And you can also give us your own personal opinion on these 5. The 5 are Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Ron, where are you putting all 5 of these?
Is Thor out of the running because there's 4?
No, I just thought that Dark World really puts a dark cloud over Thor.
Thor, the Dark Thor. I gotta say, I might catch some flack for this one, but Spider-Man's number 1 for me, because I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and it's the only one that doesn't have a movie that I am meh on. Captain America would be number 2, because obviously Civil War and Winter Soldier are great. Captain America 1, I was kind of meh on. And tied for number 2 is Guardians, for the same reason. Guardians 2 for me, just objectively, very good movie, very well made. It just, some of the stuff didn't hit for me. So tied at 2 is Cap and Guardians. And then Iron Man would be number 4. Iron Man 2, everybody kind of agrees it's more of a treading water thing, like just set stuff up. Nothing, it didn't break any ground. And Iron Man 3, I know some people love it. For me, it didn't hit. So for me, Iron Man only gets 1. That's a really good. So that one's number 4. And number 5 is Ant-Man. Because Ant-Man 1 was fun. I love Luis. Ant-Man 2, couldn't tell you anything about it, but I love Luis. Ant-Man 3, Jonathan Majors had a good performance. Yeah. So you kind of get, none of them for me are solid enough to put like way up there.
Yeah. I think I'll reverse it here with 5, Ant-Man. And I mean, with 2, I mean, I feel like there were so many storylines they just left out for some other director to potentially pick up in a future Marvel project. But number 5, Ant-Man. 4 for me, I'm going to put Iron Man. I mean, Iron Man, the original one. I mean, I feel like it's iconic that it sets off so much and introduces us to a new character. But I mean, even going back now and looking at it, if that movie had the budget of what Marvel movies have now and even the technology of what they have now, I think it'd be probably pushing up there for like a fantastic movie. 3, this is where it gets tough for me. I feel like I'm going to put Captain here. 2 years ago, I probably would have put Captain America higher, but how I joked about in the beginning, I'm just really off put by the Russo brothers and the movies that they make. I feel like they got a lot of like street cred for Infinity War, and also Endgame, but also what is that?
Winter Soldier,
Winter Soldier,
Community, Arrested Development.
When I already talked about in the beginning with John Wick and fight sequence and whatnot, I feel like they're very sloppy sequences now when I watch them. That's why I'm putting them there.
So
and now
let's just say it's not against them. It's just the bar is so high.
Yeah.
The game has been raised, and sometimes that does change your perception of people, and that's fair.
Yeah. And then, I'm probably going to go the same exact what you did, actually. Guardians 2.
Get off my nuts, bro.
You actually did a tie. I'm going to break my tie.
Okay. I had to live a tie because it breaks the rules. I can't do your rules. That's why I got these sunglasses on, because I'm a bad boy. That's why I got the Tim Crazy Mans on, because I'm so out of control. There's no way these things can fall off. I could ride these on a water slide in a moped and they wouldn't fall off unless I want them to when I loosen this guy up. Okay.
I'll come back to that joke too. So Guardians and then 1 Spider-Man, just because it's a complete trilogy, in my opinion. It's a complete trilogy that only grows and grows with each installment. It gets bigger, it gets better. And I feel like it's hard to do that, especially, I mean, the last one, it's so hard to get. How many pieces they had to get Tobey Maguire and also Andrew Garfield in that. How hard they had to work for that, and even Daredevil to get in. So it's pretty impressive in that aspect and what it does for the future. So that has been mine. The one joke that I was going to pay off here is whatever Ron was saying just about a minute ago. That is the cue to make sure that you go watch this on YouTube. Watch this version of the episode on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube as we continue to grow our podcast.
Leave a comment every time you see me changing liquids.
There you go. Let's now get to our post-workout takeaway and our final thought here. Ron, what is, as you all know, our listeners know that we actually do work in the fitness industry. Ron, what is your post-workout takeaway?
So I sit here, I contemplate my post-workout takeaway while drinking my pre-workout. A little ironic, isn't it? What I want to give to you, my dear listeners, my movie buff aficionados, is this piece of advice. Have confidence and have faith in yourself. You are good enough to do the things you want to do and get the things you want to get out of life. But you are never too good to stop learning and getting better. And by learning and getting better and improving yourself, you improve your chances to get those things that you are good enough and deserve to have. And that's my takeaway.
Great job, Ronald.
I blacked out. What happened? If you see a possum, kill it. It's not a pet.
Great job. That has been our episode on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. As always, make sure that you do all the podcast things. Make sure you follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. Leave us a review, as that helps this podcast get out into the universe. And as always, thank you for being a listener, and we will catch you in the next one.
Stay buff.